Welcome! In this video, we're going to be answering the question, who are the Philistines? The people who live to the south of ancient Israel, largely overlapping with modern-day Gaza. So where did these people come from? And is there any connection between them and the modern-day Palestinians? So buckle up, this is going to be an interesting video. Hopefully I don't say anything too controversial. And I want to begin with a quotation from the prophet Amos. In this quote, God himself is speaking and says the following, "Are you Israelites more important to me than the Ethiopians, says the Lord? I brought Israel out of Egypt, but I also brought the Philistines from Caphtor and led the Armenians out of Kir." Okay, let's focus on this middle line here, which I find absolutely fascinating. Here we're told that just as God brought the Israelites from Egypt, he also brought the Philistines from Caphtor. So where exactly is Caphtor? Well, let's zoom out here. Some people are going to try to be way too specific and say it's referring to Crete or Cyprus, but we really can't be sure of that. Caphtor is probably just referring to somewhere in the Greek islands, and these people from Caphtor eventually migrate to Philistia. So when exactly did this migration take place? Well, it most likely happened in around 1200 BC, which is the late Bronze Age collapse. Now, I'm going to give you an extremely simplified account of this major historical event. There are tons of videos out there which go into way more detail. We're going to keep it nice and simple in this video. So during this time, we have major superpowers like the Mycenaeans, the Hittites, the Assyrians, the Egyptians, and also take note that at this time, Israel was under Egyptian domination. But in about 1200 BC, the entire world just falls apart. We have famine, disease, and trade breakdown, and on top of all of that, we have this mysterious bunch called the Sea People who come from the Greek islands. And they begin to sweep across the nations, bringing terror and destruction with them. So all of these nations are already extremely weak due to these other factors, and now the Sea Peoples are attacking them. Again, this is extremely simplified, but you can imagine the Sea Peoples going from nation to nation, causing destruction wherever they go, until they arrive in Egypt. And although they are severely going to weaken Egypt, Egypt will be the only nation that will survive the late Bronze Age collapse. And this is in large part thanks to their pharaoh, Ramses III, who fought against the Sea People as commemorated on this image here. And as you can see, the hordes of Sea People on their boats attacking Egypt. Here is another image of Ramses III approaching the gods with the captured Sea Peoples bound behind him. On one very important inscription on his mortuary temple, Ramses III writes the following about the Sea Peoples, quote, "The foreign countries," which is referring to the Sea Peoples, "made a conspiracy in their islands. All at once their lands were removed and scattered in the fray. No land could stand before their arms, from Hatti, Kod, Carchemish, Aswa, and Elisha on, being cut off at one time. A camp was set up in Amuru. They desolated its people. Its land was like that which has never come into being. They were coming forward towards Egypt, while the flame was prepared before them. Their confederation was the Peleset, Teshek, Shekelesh, Denyon, and Weshes, land united. They laid their hands upon the land as far as the circuit of the earth, their hearts confident and trusting our plans will succeed." End quote. So here we're told that the Sea Peoples are not just one ethnic group, but rather a multitude of different ethnicities. And I want to focus on just one of these, the Peleset, who, after being destroyed by the Egyptians, will settle in this land right here, just below the Israelites. And as time goes on, the Israelites will give a name to the Peleset. They will call them the Philistines. And today, the word Palestine is also derived from this ancient Egyptian word Peleset. But apart from their name, there's really no other connection between modern-day Palestinians and Philistines. The Palestinians are not ethnically descended from the original Greek people of the Peleset. Okay, let's now return to our main point, and we have now seen historical evidence confirming what we read in Amos 9 verse 7. The Philistines were from Caphtor. And not only do we have history proving this to us, but we also have science. DNA taken from ancient sites in Philistine cities, such as the DNA of these ancient bones from Ashkelon, prove that this person was ethnically connected to the Greek islands. So we have history and science, and just to seal the deal, we also have pottery. The ancient pottery we find in the Philistine cities is remarkably similar to that which we find in Mediterranean islands like Cyprus. So hopefully you are convinced that the Philistines are indeed from Caphtor. But before we end, I just want to again talk about the late Bronze Age collapse and really zoom in to Egypt and Israel here for a moment, because I think the late Bronze Age collapse, 1200 BC, is a key moment in biblical history. Because I want you to remember, before 1200 BC, Egypt controlled all of Israel and its surrounding countries. But then, After 1200 BC, Egypt loses all of this territory, and what springs up in its place are countries like Israel and Judah and Edom and Moab and Ammon and all of these countries that you see before you now. Tying this all together, in his book, Why the Bible Began, Jacob L. Wright says the following, quote, "The collapse of the Bronze Age created a power vacuum in the southern Levant. Other peoples now had breathing room in which they could stretch out and realize their political potential. During this period, we witness a new phenomenon in Canaan, the evolution of what we call territorial states. These diverse polities include Israel and Judah in the central hill country, Aram Damascus in the north, and Ammon, Moab, and Edom on the eastern side of the Jordan. For several centuries, these places jockeyed with each other for position in the region, and the Bible chronicles many of their coalitions and conflicts, paying special attention to Israel and Judah's relationship," end quote. Now, I totally agree with this author here. I believe that 1200 BC, the late Bronze Age collapse, was an absolutely pivotal moment in Israel's history. I believe it was the time that Israel came into existence alongside all of its surrounding countries. Edom, Moab, Ammon, and all of them came into existence in about 1200 BC. Egypt loses control of the land, and all of these countries pop into existence. I also believe that this allows us to understand what Amos was saying in 9:7 when he says that Israel came from Egypt, Philistines from Caphtor, and Arameans out of Ker. There's this sense that all of these countries have just moved in. And this idea isn't just found in Amos 9. It's also found in Deuteronomy 2. I made a previous video on Deuteronomy 2. I would very much encourage you to watch it. Just to give a really quick summary here, Deuteronomy 2 tells us that giants used to live in all of this land. So all of these giants who were the descendants of the Nephilim used to live in this land before all the countries moved in. But then God brought the Edomites and the Moabites and the Israelites and the Philistines, and they wiped out all of these giants. So again, there's this real sense that Israel and the surrounding countries came into existence in about 1200 BC with the late Bronze Age collapse. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the very first time we find Israel in the archaeological record is in the Merneptah Stela, which is around 1200 BC. Again, I don't want to put forward a too simplified narrative here. It's probably a lot more complicated than what I'm saying, but I believe that 1200 BC is a key moment in Israel's history and a key date that we all should know. All right, probably got a little too excited there towards the end, but this is really fascinating stuff. If you've learned something new today, please consider hitting that like button, leaving me a comment, and subscribing. It makes a huge difference to the health of the channel. And if you are in a position, please consider becoming a patron. It makes a huge difference to the channel and really does keep me going. Every day I do consider shutting down this channel because I haven't got as much traction as I would hope to. That isn't your fault, it's mine. I think my biggest mistake was perhaps cutting videos short and saying you had to become a patron. I'm thinking about reversing that. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But if you've made it this far and you want to support my work and you've got an idea of how I can boost the views of this channel or get more patrons, or maybe you just want to become a patron, please let me know. Really want to salvage this channel if I can. And people who make it this far into a video, I'm going to be honest, you're a little weird because these videos are strange. And the fact that you're here is even stranger. But thanks so much for being here. I absolutely love that you're engaging with my work. It means the world. All right, I'm rambling now. Thanks so much for watching it till the end. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.